Hi boys and girls, it's time for some writing. So we have read a story, or you should have read a story in reading today called The Class Pet. Okay, it looks like this. If you have not yet read this story, you cannot do this activity yet. So please, if you did not read The Class Pet yet, you need to go back to Seesaw, find your reading assignment for today, and do that first before you come to do writing, okay? So I have a few materials. I have my writing journal here, open to a nice blank page. I have my reading book as well, so you will need your reading book. It's on page 92, where that story, The Class Pet, starts. And I also have a pencil with me to write. So you need to have this story with you to do your writing today. So please pause me now, go get your materials, get your right page open, page 92, and then push play so we can begin when you're totally prepared. If you are with me here and you have your page opened, you have your writer's journal, and you have something to write with, like a pencil, we're going to go ahead and get started. We read this story today, and it's called The Class Pet, and it gave us facts, right? It gave us facts about what? Do you remember what animal it gave us facts about? Sure. It gave us facts about mice, okay? There's a class that had a mouse for a pet, and it also told us how mice look, the things that mice like to eat, when mice like to sleep, how they make their nests, and it gave us a lot, 2 pages worth, of facts about baby mice, okay? So, like I said, if you haven't read this story yet, you need to go back, stop this writing activity, go back to your math or to your reading activity, and read this story first. Hopefully it's still pretty fresh in your mind. I'm going to go ahead back to the beginning. Okay. Now, today for writing, we're going to use what we learned about mice to write something called an expository paragraph, and that is just a super fancy word. Expository means real, okay, or giving facts, just like this was an expository text. This story was expository. It gave us real information about mice. We're going to write a paragraph, which is a fancy word for just meaning more than one sentence. We're going to write some sentences about mice, facts about them, okay? Remember, we're talking about fact and opinion this week, where facts are always true, opinions are what we think, okay? We are just going to stick to facts because we're writing an expository paragraph. So, first graders, first thing we know is we're going to write about mice today. We already know our topic. Okay, Mrs. Garris is choosing it for you today, but you will have a chance to write a paragraph about your own chosen topic another time. So since we're writing about mice, we always want to first give our writer a little introduction about what they're going to read about, so we don't just jump right into things and kind of sound like we don't make sense. So we want our reader to know that we're writing about mice. So I'm going to start my first sentence, and you can write this one with me. Okay, capital M, mice. And I want you to think of just how you would describe mice. If they're interesting, if they're neat, if they're cool, if they are odd, whatever you might think about mice after reading The Class Pet. I'm going to use the word neat, I think. Mice are neat animals. Okay, so now if my reader reads that sentence, they're like, okay, mice are neat. I don't really know much about mice yet, but I know we're about to read about mice. Okay, we're telling them what we're going to write about. Now is where these facts come into play, where we're going to use our story to choose some interesting facts that we want our reader to know about mice. So, we're going to write 2 facts today. Here's the deal, first grader. You are allowed to use the same fact as me for the first fact, this next one we're about to write. But for the second one, you have to choose your own. You see my finger shaking at you? You have to choose your own for that second fact. Okay? Can't copy me for all of it. So, maybe you used the word neat, maybe you used a different word for this first sentence, and that's great too. So, let's take a peek back at our story now. I want to think about something that was interesting to me. Now, immediately I think of this page. Maybe you think of a different page, and that's great too. We all have different thoughts and interests. Immediately I think of this page, and I remember reading that mice like to run and jump late at night. It is time for them to sleep when the sun rises. You see, I'm rereading it to make sure I have it correct in my mind. I'm going to rethink that idea so that I can just put it in one short sentence for my reader. When it says it is time for them to sleep when the sun rises, that tells me that as the day is starting, they're going to sleep. So they sleep during the day. I think that's really interesting. So I'm going to take that thought and put it as my first fact. If you like that fact, you can do this one with me. If you want to choose a different fact to start with, absolutely go for it. Remember though, we're not copying the words right from the book. We're going to come up with our own sentence based on what we read. So I'm not going to write, it is time for them to sleep when the sun rises. I'm going to use my own words and say, they sleep during the day. So I used up all my space on this line. I'm going to go over to my next line, and I'm going to use the word they with a capital T this time because we already used the word mice. So now instead of mice, we're going to call them they. They sleep during the, now I have a little room left, but not really enough to have a finger space and a word, so I'm just going to go to my next line. They sleep during the day, and that is the end of my first fact and my first thought, so I'm going to put a period. You should have a period at the end of your first introduction sentence and at the end of your first fact. So mice are neat animals. They sleep during the day. Okay, so that's kind of neat. I need some more facts for my reader, because that's pretty short. I'm going to think of one more. So the next thing I remember this is our fact that you're going to have to find your own. You can't use mine on this one. I remember the story telling lots of facts about babies. I'm going to maybe reread some of these parts about the babies. So it says, a mom can have lots of very small mice. 10 of them can be born at the same time. They nap in a nest. When mice are born, they have no fur. These mice cannot see yet. Okay, so there was like probably 4 or 5 different facts about those baby mice. Okay, I'm going to keep reading, just see which one is most interesting to me. For a short time, small mice cannot eat seeds. They just sleep and drink milk. Time passes and small mice get fur. So, as I reread it, I'm just jogging my memory. I think I'm going to stick with a fact I read over here, which I thought was interesting, is that they don't have any fur when they're born. So in my paragraph, I'm not going to take the exact words. Okay, I'm not going to write, when mice are born, they have no fur. That makes sense and it sounds great, but I can't take it straight from the book. I need to make it my own thought, okay? However, what I can do is I can use words from the sentences to help me spell. If you have a word that you're not sure of, that might be in the sentence that you're using from the fact that you're thinking of, absolutely go for it and use those words to help you spell. So, mice are neat animals. They sleep during the day. Okay, now I think it's also interesting that the babies don't have fur. So I'm just going to make it a little shorter, and I'm going to say just that. I'm going to do a capital B for babies. And you better not be writing what I'm writing right now, because you should be using your own fact for this second one. Babies don't have fur. Okay, so there I have it. I have an introduction sentence and 2 facts about mice. Mice are neat animals. They sleep during the day. Babies don't have fur. Those are my 2 facts, that they sleep during the day and that the babies don't have fur. Remember, this was our introduction. It doesn't count as a fact. It's an introduction telling our reader what we're going to write about. You may have also written they sleep during the day, like I did, but you should not have babies don't have fur. I want you to think of your own fact. Now there's plenty more room here if you'd like to write one more fact about your mice. And when you're done writing, you can draw a picture of your interesting facts. And don't forget, boys and girls, you need to have periods at the end of your thoughts. I don't just put periods at the end of all the lines, okay? Put the period at the end of my thought. End of my introduction sentence. They sleep during the day. End of my first fact. Babies don't have fur. End of my second fact. Okay? So, can't wait to hear what interested you about those mice. Happy writing, and make sure it's neat enough for your teacher to read.